What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Coaster Nostra back at you guys with another sneaker review, unboxing, and of course that on-feet look with the sock combo to boot. Guys, let's jump right into it. Alright guys, we've seen a couple of these boxes so far, all business on the outside. However, once you pop the top on that box, there is nothing but craziness on the inside. The Nike Kyrie 7, the colorway on this bad boy is Active Fuchsia Black Ghost in a size 11 and retailing for $140. Fam, let's check out this colorway. Alright guys, there we have in hand the Nike Kyrie 7 in the creator colorway, or these were referred to fairly early on when the first pictures of these things started to leak. They started calling this colorway Hendrix, which I think is a really dope nickname for this colorway, and probably the nickname that I'm gonna go with. I think the reason that they steered away from rocking that nickname, number one, they're not trying to maybe pay royalties or getting into any kind of weird situation like that, but number two, when you actually look at the description of this colorway, it actually says it's supposed to sort of be a representation of what the inside of Kyrie's mind would look like if you could see all the influences sort of mismatched and mangled into one. This colorway of the Kyrie 7 is supposed to represent that ideal, which I think is pretty cool. You can definitely see why people were calling this the Hendrix colorway, because when you look at that upper, not only are the colors, but the actual patterns are really reminiscent to me of some of those old sort of 60s and 70s sort of themes, and definitely what we'd see on some of the Jimi Hendrix albums and stuff like that, such as the Jimi Hendrix Experience and Purple Haze. Purple Haze was really the first thing that came to my mind when I looked at this shoe. So when pictures were first leaking and they were calling this thing Hendrix, guys, I was excited and it definitely made sense to me. However, they've actually dubbed this colorway the Creator colorway, which is another cool name, and I think it's supposed to embody a little bit more the ideal behind this shoe, as it's not just a music themed shoe. It's really all of Kyrie's influences, whether it be sports or music or film or the arts or anything like that, or even as we look at the back heel counter and there's sort of this little spray can that's represented back there, even sort of street art and things like that. I think this shoe does a somewhat decent job of representing that. However, to me, that upper just screams Purple Haze all day, fam. Now the Kyrie 7 itself is comprised of 3 layers to the upper. So we have this overlying mesh layer, we have sort of an underlying mesh layer, and then we have the actual underlying structural layer itself. And what that's really supposed to provide is not just strength and stability, but guys, it's really supposed to make this shoe dramatically more lightweight and breathable than the Kyrie predecessors leading up to this point. And guys, when you look at this shoe versus the Kyrie 6, weight-wise, fam, this is really in a league of its own, as these shoes are something like 2.5 ounces lighter or something crazy like that than the Kyrie 6, which, because of the strap and then going back to the Kyrie 5, the overlying fly trap system on the shoe, that added a lot of weight, guys, and it also detracted from the breathability of the shoe itself. Probably the number one most glaring negative that the Kyrie line has kind of suffered from for a while now, really from its conception, honestly, as guys, it really tends to do so many other things so well, whether it be the actual grip on the outsole, the actual containment system of the shoe, the cushioning system of the shoe. Once it graduated to the Kyrie 5 and we were introduced to the Zoom Turbo unit, which they actually moved up to the forefront of the shoe, it had actually been in that back heel portion of the shoe with the Kyrie 4s. So really a no-brainer decision in terms of performance right there, in my opinion. Honestly, the only thing that would make this shoe better is if they coupled it with some sort of cushioning system in the back portion of the shoe as well. However, going back to the 4s, they used Cushlon in the midsole, so it was a very forgiving setup on that shoe. And honestly, on this shoe, it's pretty forgiving as well. You can definitely see when you look at the midsole, there's sort of an arc to the midsole itself, and you can really see how they sort of structured kind of like a crumple zone into the midsole of the shoe, especially when you look at the back booty portion of the shoe, as they've actually kind of cut out an entire semicircle back there, which in my opinion, the idea behind that was really to just kind of create more of a crash zone to make it a little bit more comfortable when you're landing back there and coming down back there. The harder exterior portions of the midsole are actually stripped away, and I think it leads to a little bit more forgiving setup in my opinion, honestly. The heel counters on these feel nice. They definitely lock you in, lock you down to that footbed, keep your foot really from shifting or jumping up off of the footbed of the shoe, which would be one of those factors that would lead to an increase in the likelihood that you might twist an ankle or hurt your foot or something like that. The Kyrie line has done a great job of that for a while now, guys, and the Kyrie 7 really is no different in that department. The one thing I will say about the Kyrie 7, it is noticeably more roomy in the toe box area of the shoe. The toe box on the 6s was very, very constricting in my opinion. When you put your foot in there, there definitely wasn't a lot of flex to that toe box, whereas in with the 7s, there's a lot more room for your toes. There's of course way more flex to the upper itself because of the nature of the 3 layers of the material itself and the 2 overlying mesh layers that sit atop. However, fam, the 4 bands that they've sort of worked into the shoe, into the lower 2 laces of the shoe, we see 2 on the medial portion of the shoe, 2 on the lateral portion of the shoe. On this colorway, they chose to dress them in different colors, albeit some neutral colors right there, especially compared to the colors that dominate the rest of the shoe. But guys, they really do serve their purpose, and when you lace these shoes and pull them pretty tight, what those bands really do is they actually sort of crisscross and pull down over the forefront area of your shoe to add a little bit more stability, to add a little bit more lockdown, and really, guys, continue to give you the confidence on court to really do anything that you want to in these shoes. Any movement that your mind or your body can sort of come up with, these shoes are going to be right there with you. So I definitely like what they've done with that lower portion of the lacing system right there. Those bands actually extend all the way down to the footbed of the shoe. So guys, again, it's going to provide you with a lot of stability right there, and that stability is focused a little bit more on the forefront of the shoe as opposed to the midfoot of the shoe like we saw with the Kyrie 6s and a little bit more with the Kyrie 5s. They've gone back to a little bit more traditional lacing system with the free-fitting tongue, even though they've worked those bands into the lower portions of the lacing system that we just talked about. The one thing I dig about that is it makes the shoe light years easier to get on feet, especially compared to the Kyrie 6s, those Kybrids that we were just treated to, the Kyrie 5s, some of the more difficult shoes in the Kyrie line to get your foot into. These things are not that. Loosen these things up a little bit and you will not struggle to get your foot in this shoe, guys. The upper ankle collar is contoured a little bit more like the Kyrie 3s. However, I will say it is much, much more forgiving than the Kyrie 3s, as honestly, those contours on the Kyrie 3s, I have to wear high socks when I rock Kyrie 3s, or after about 2 or 3 hours, they're starting to dig into my ankles a little bit. And of course, that area of your foot, guys, you got no muscles, very, very little skin back there to really protect you from any kind of chafing that you might experience from any shoes. So these Kyrie 7s, even though the contours are shaped a little bit more like the Kyrie 3s and make me think a little bit more of the Kyrie 3s, they definitely don't feel like the Kyrie 3s on foot at all. There is a little bit more padding to the interior portion of the uppers on that ankle collar, but once you reach further down with your hand and inside the shoe, you can really see how much more minimal the uppers on these shoes are, especially compared to previous models of the Kyries. If you push that tongue down and kind of flare out the upper around the lacing system, it really reminds me of some really thin older Kobe's from back in the day. But guys, when you put these things on feet, they definitely don't feel cheap or anything like that. So kudos to Nike for figuring all that out, and honestly, guys, it's really resulted in my opinion, the best Kyrie to date in terms of hooping and everything all together. While there might be something that the Kyrie 6 does a little bit better and something that the Kyrie 5 does a little bit better, in terms of a total package, guys, the 7 is it. It's definitely continuing to head in the right direction. Gone is the all-seeing eye and the sort of weird storytelling elements that we've been treated to on past models on the outsole, and it's replaced by this 100% sort of computer generated, scientifically generated pattern to this outsole. They've thrown a whole bunch of data in there in terms of Kyrie's gameplay and his movements and the cuts and stuff like that that he makes. They've taken all that, thrown it into some weird program, and this is what they've come up with, guys. So it's not at all random in terms of the pattern that they generated, guys. This pattern is actually somewhat scientifically backed by evidence and data and what have you. The channels to the grooves are much, much thicker than past Kyries. So one bonus you'll find with these things is going to be dust pickup is going to be a little bit more minimalized compared to past Kyries, where the grooves were so small. Sometimes on indoor courts you found yourself picking up dust pretty easily on those things, even though the grip on the Kyrie 6s and the Kyrie 5s were really fantastic. You got a little bit different elements going on here. It's a lot more spaced out. The grooves are a lot thicker. However, guys, these things should hold up pretty well. As guys, I've gotten a couple models of these, and some of them had been from overseas, and they have had the XDR outsole stickers or tags or whatever hanging off the shoe. The Zoom Turbo unit, they decorated in a little bit of a different color right there, as they've chose to do really from jump with the Zoom Turbo unit. They're very proud of it, and they're definitely going to try to draw your attention to it and make you kind of do a little bit of research and figure out what it is going on right there. It's a lot more exaggerated, I feel like, in this model, as they've sort of brought back the teeth that we saw on the Kyrie 1. However, because this is the Kyrie 7, we've got 7 teeth on that midsole Nike Zoom Turbo unit thing right there. A pretty cool design element, something I'm definitely feeling myself personally. What do you guys think of this colorway? I know a lot of people weren't really liking this colorway, just maybe because of the weird combination of colors. Some of the sort of more muted colors and the sort of like nude colors and stuff like that, they are kind of weird, I guess, with some of the purples and pinks and whatnot. But guys, these go hard in my opinion. I really like these, especially on feet. A really cool, memorable colorway, guys. Something that really went hand in hand with those other 4 preheat colorways, even though this came, I want to say, what, a day later, a couple days later, whatever, and this was a little bit more widely available. This wasn't part of the mystery box pack or whatever, but a really dope colorway in my opinion, guys, especially because I feel like these things do a pretty good job of making a nod to Jimi Hendrix. Fam, what do you guys think? Let's check these things out on feet. Thank you for rocking with me and my review. Y'all know what to do. Comment, like, subscribe. Throw me a question down below, guys. I'll hit y'all back. Much love. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Stay warm. Peace.